Tom, thank you for your time. It's much appreciated.
That's a pleasure, Joel.
It's nice to talk to the man from Snowy River. It's a name, of course, whenever you mention that name, Tom Burlinson comes to mind. Happy memories of the movie and the sequel?
Oh, absolutely, Joel. It was a fantastic career opportunity for me as a young actor. I was 25 years old. I'd been to NIDA and I'd worked on stage and in television, but this was my first role in a feature film, and to be cast in the title role of a film that went on to such great success and is still so much loved by not only Australian people but people all around the world. It changed my life, and I hold many wonderful memories of that time.
As a young actor, how did you feel when you learnt that Kirk Douglas was going to be starring alongside you? That must have been a bit daunting.
Well, it was. Yes, it was. But it's funny because my dad was a bit reluctant about me wanting to pursue acting as a career. But when I told him that I was going to be working with Kirk Douglas, all of a sudden it was like the kids made it.
Yeah.
So, no, he was, of course, I had to have two relationships with Kirk because he was playing two different characters in the film, one of Spur and the other of Harrison. So that was interesting. And, of course, Kirk brought a wealth of experience to that film set. He was making, I think, his 70th movie or something like that at that time, and don't forget there were a lot of first-timers on that movie. George Miller was directing his first feature, and I was in my first feature, and the director of photography was shooting his first feature, and the producer was producing his first feature. So Kirk's experience was very valuable to the film.
Rewinding a little bit, Tom, where did the acting bug bite? Do you remember one particular moment?
Well, not really until my late teens, Joel. I was in high school, and I had a friend of my older sister's who was at NIDA. She'd been accepted into the acting course, and I talked to her about what she was doing there, and to me it sounded very interesting, and I sort of realized about myself too at that time that further purely academic study was not going to be for me, that I applied myself better to sort of practical situations. And so I auditioned for NIDA, and to my great surprise was accepted straight out of high school. I wasn't yet 18 when I was accepted. And so NIDA was really my tertiary education, and I learned a great deal there.
Did anybody say to you, "Come on, Tom, do something sensible"? Do you know how many starving actors there are out there?
Oh, absolutely. My grandfather, for one, said, you'll be mixing with people of unsavory character. and he definitely wanted me to pursue law as a career, but I thought, no, well, if I become an actor, I can pretend to be a lawyer. I don't have to do 6 years studies to do it.
Yeah, that's true. I guess number one rule, as with so many of these different vocations, you must be absolutely passionate and in love with acting, and I suppose that's one thing that you certainly have.
Well, that's true, and I've also been very fortunate, Joel, over the years. When I graduated from NIDA, I was represented almost immediately by one of the great agents who also represented Jack Thompson and Brian Brown and Ray Barrett. So, she was very experienced and guided my career. And I was fortunate to, work in the theater and work in television and then get this career-changing opportunity in The Man from Snowy River, which led to lots of other work, of course.
Was the break into TV, was that the Restless Years? Was that the big break?
Well, yes, it was actually before that. I did 6 months on an ABC TV series called Kirby's Company.
Yep.
So that was that was an easy transition into TV. But then soon thereafter, yes, the Restless Years, and working very much more at speed in commercial television, and it was I looked at it really as an apprenticeship in commercial television, and I stayed there for over 18 months, and I suppose became better known through that than I had been up till that time.
Do you think that Australian television drama has matured as much as perhaps it should have? If you look back, we're talking about, not to date you too much, Tom, but we're talking about 25 years ago. Do you think we're at where we should be? Do you think?
Well, I think there are some very high quality TV shows being made now. I mean, the Underbelly series is very, very successful. I was a fan of All Saints, which I know is finished now, but I thought there was a very high-quality TV show for a continuing series, you know. So, yes, I definitely think that you know, some of the TV shows are of a very high quality. And, of course, there's still the continuing ones that are similar to, you know, the old days and the restless years, you know, with Home and Away, and and Neighbours, still very successful.
Mm. Well, let's go over to Tom Burlinson, the singer. There'd be few people that you're going to you know, take on the work of Frank Sinatra. I think it'd be so daunting. How did it all start?
Well, it began really with my love affair with Sinatra, which started when I was a kid in the late 1950s, Joel, and just 3 years old. And my parents had one of those classic Capitol albums called A Swingin' Affair. Mm. And as a toddler, I just loved that record, and I'd say to my mum, "Put on the Man in the Hat." That was my name for Sinatra, because of course he had the trademark fedora on his head on the album cover. Yeah. So then, of course, I was a child of the Beatles generation and sort of got into all of that as I grew up. But when I was in my late teens, I rediscovered that album that I'd loved so much as a little child. And, of course, now the romanticism of it captured my imagination. And from that time on, I became really an avid Sinatra fan. You know, I just would sing along with him, and I found it, to my amazement, that my own singing voice was placed in a similar range to his, and with a similar tonal quality. And, you know, so I, you know, found I could do a decent impression of him. And I didn't know, you know, I didn't want to really become a Sinatra impersonator. I certainly didn't want to do that. And so it was just really for my own enjoyment for years and years. And I had my own dreams to pursue anyway, you know, with acting. I wanted to establish my own career as an actor. But then eventually I wrote a song about Sinatra, which was the first song I ever wrote, and I called it The Man in the Hat. And I recorded it with a big band arrangement. And, well, it's kind of a long story, Joel, but I ended up sending a copy of that song, or giving a copy of that song, to Ray Martin, and said, you know, have a listen to this. Well, Ray then asked me to perform the song live on the Midday Show, which he hosted at that time. Okay, so that might have been the end of it all. But then we heard about the proposed production of the miniseries Sinatra, which was going to be made in Los Angeles, and produced by Frank's youngest daughter, Tina. And we sent a videotape of me singing The Man in the Hat on the Midday Show to her, and she asked me to fly to Hollywood and sing for her, and then she offered me the overwhelming honor of singing the voice of her father as a young man in that miniseries. Now, I wasn't even a professional singer at that time, so you can imagine it was quite an amazing experience, that whole thing, to be standing there singing the voice of one of, you know, the great voices of the 20th century. In this miniseries that went on to win Golden Globe Award for the best miniseries that year. And so then, you know, it became known that not only could the man from Snowy River sing, he could sing like Sinatra. So it led to lots of other musical work back here in Australia, and eventually to my show, Frank: A Life in Song.
It's just an incredible story, especially when you say that you really had very little formal training, and to be able to take on, as you say, one of the great singers of the 20th century. It's just remarkable.
Well, it was, and, you know, not a little daunting, and I must say, when I listen to it now, Joel, I'd love to go back and be able to do it all over again, but I guess we often feel that way about our work, and we just have to do the best we can at the time, you know? Yeah, that's exactly right. I guess it's a testimony just to the continuing popularity of Frank and of yourself, that you still, you know, the audience is still calling for it, aren't they? They just want to hear this music. Well, yes, I mean, when I created Frank: A Life in Song in 1998, I had no idea it would become as successful as it has become. We've toured all around Australia, you know, been to the capital cities several times over. We took the show to Toronto in Canada and to Las Vegas. And, you know, I'm very happy to be going to this wonderful festival up on the Sunshine Coast, the Noosa Long Weekend Festival. And, you know, as you say, the music is really timeless. The songs are by some of the greatest composers and lyricists of 20th century music. It's really the great American songbook, Sinatra's repertoire. And I've got some fine musicians coming there with me, and you know, the show hasn't changed all that much since I originally created it, because it worked, and the structure of it, you know, it seemed to work. I concentrate on the music of the man more than anything else. I don't go into too much detail about, you know, his private life or his associations with the mafia or whatever. Yeah. It's a celebration of his musical achievement, really, and of course there's heaps of wonderful stuff to choose from.
Tom, you've been kind enough to give us some of your time in the middle of working on a new project as well. You're in the middle of making a movie.
Yes, I'm thrilled to be able to say that I'm going to be, well, I'm at present filming a part in a new Australian film called The Cup, which is, it's being directed by Simon Windsor, who directed me in Far Lap years ago and was also the executive producer of The Man from Snowy River. And, you know, Simon's gone on to great success as an international director. Well, this is, essentially, it's his project. He's co-written the script, he's co-producing it, and he's directing it, and it revolves around the events of the 2002 Melbourne Cup, which people may well remember was won by Damien Oliver on an Irish horse called Media Puzzle, and this was only a week after Damien lost his brother Jason in a riding accident. And so that's, of course, the climax of the movie, his triumph in winning the 2002 Melbourne Cup. I'm playing an Irishman in the film. The trainer of the horse was a man named Dermot Weld, and his second in charge was a man named Dave Phillips, and I'm playing Dave Phillips, who travelled with the horses in advance before the boss came out, and was really, you know, caring for the horses. But it's a lovely part, and it's just great to be on a film set again, and to be playing a wonderful character. And there were horses involved, which I had some experience with, so I really couldn't be happier about it.
I was going to say, it's been a strange affinity, you with horses on the big screen, hasn't it?
Well, yes, and, you know, people might say, oh, yeah, Tom, back in the saddle again, but really, this is a great story. When I read that script, that Simon's, the script of The Cup, you know, it's rare that you read a script that just grabs you emotionally as you read it, and you know that with a director like Simon Windsor, who really knows how to put a picture together, when it's on the screen, it's going to be very emotionally powerful. He's cast it very well. Stephen Curry is playing Damien Oliver. We've got the great Irish actor Brendan Gleeson, who people might know as Mad Eye Moody in the Harry Potter movies, playing Dermot Weld, and lots of other really top quality Australian actors. So yes, look, it's more than it being another horse movie for me, it's another great role in another great story. So as I say, I'm thrilled about it.